So people are quickly finding out that College Football 25 is a lot harder than your average Madden. And the reason why it's harder is because it's a more realistic sim than we've ever had in any football video game before. So you kind of have to have some ball knowledge to really know what you're doing. A lot of people are struggling with that, right? Because they're used to how Madden plays, which is not super realistic when it comes to football. So my goal today is to teach you what I know about real football so that you can get better at one aspect of CFB 25 that people really struggle with, and that's pass protection. There's a lot more options in this game for pass protection than in previous iterations of Madden. It's not just slide left, slide right. Like, you got full slides, you got half slides, you got empty, you got everything in between, right? There's a ton of options. There's a ton of different ways to handle certain fronts and certain pressures. And a lot of people are struggling with, when do they full slide? When do they half slide? What's the advantage and disadvantage of empty? They don't really know the schematics behind these protections and why real football teams use the protection schemes that they do in certain situations. And they're getting the shit kicked out of them as a result. So if that describes you, this video is for you. So hopefully this helps you out. And without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start off here by talking about empty protections or scat protections. They both follow kind of the same general principle, but empty is obviously run from an empty formation. Scat protections is just also a 5-man protection, but you're running it out of a formation that has a back in the backfield. If you remember the term scat back, think like Theo Riddick, maybe Danny Woodhead, these kind of small receiving only backs. That's where that term comes from, right? It's because you're running scat protection with them, meaning they're not protecting. They're going to be your scat back. They're going to catch balls out of the backfield. Now, what scat protection and empty protection have in common is that they are generally going to be a half slide to the will. When you designate a mic, at least in real football, CFB 25 and Madden could be a little bit janky when it comes to this principle, but at least in real football, when you designate a mic, you're designating that side as the man protection side or the dual protection side, whatever word you want to use for it, and the slide is going the other way. So the center, guard, and tackle in this 5-man protection scheme is going to be sliding to the will based on who you're designating as the mic. So again, mic is man side, will is slide side, and you can repoint the mic depending on where you want the slide to go. Now, obviously scat protection or empty protection in this case, because they are in an empty formation here in Buffalo, it's awesome if you want to get all 5 of your receivers out running routes, but the weakness of it is either pressures or simulated pressures. Not because you're overloading the offensive line. You don't actually have to rush 6 to beat 5. You can rush 5 to beat 5, or you can even rush 4 to beat 5, as long as you can get them to put that slide in the wrong direction. In this case, they designated 45 as the mic, so that is the man side. The reason why this doesn't work out, and the reason why Allen took an immediate sack, is because they chose poorly. You have 3 blocking 2 on one side and 2 blocking 3 on the other. So again, this isn't just the offensive line screwing up. They got the mic point wrong. It is what it is. They should have pointed the other direction and sent the slide. And good on Tampa for disguising this look really well and kind of forcing them into this mistake. That's just good defense right there. But this is the danger of empty protection or scat protection, depending on the formation you're in, is if you get caught in a blitz and you don't slide correctly, you're fucked. Now, how this information translates to CFB 25, which is a game that, in my opinion, handles protections a lot more realistically than past games. I'm not saying it's all the way there yet, but it's a lot closer than previous iterations, that's for damn sure. But how this information translates is you as the player also have to be cognizant of where you're sending your slides, whether you're in empty protection or scat protection. So I'm in empty with USC here. I'm going to be sliding to the left. Let's just pretend I'm making a boneheaded read here and I'm worried about this nickel blitzing. So I'm going to slide that direction, have my right side as the man side. I am now very vulnerable. They don't even have to send 6 to get to me. They can still send 5. They can still send 4. They just have to overload the man side of the protection. And that is exactly what Michigan is doing here. Again, we have 2 blockers on 1 defender on the slide side and 2 rushers on 1 blocker on the man side. This is bad news. And unfortunately, if you don't have really quick eyes that can get all the way from the front side to the back side to find the receiver you want to hit basically instantly, you're not going to be able to get this throw off. For most players that don't have superhuman reflexes, at best, it's going to be an incompletion. At worst, you're going to be taking a sack. Now, you contrast that result to this one, where you actually set the slide to the correct direction, which for me, generally, I'm going to be sliding to the side that has the most threats that are nearest to the quarterback. Because even if I get it wrong, let's say they overload me from the field, it's still a much longer way for that nickel to have to come get me. So I'm still going to have more time to react. So generally, I'm going to try to slide to the largest group of nearest defenders, right? Let's just take care of the biggest threats first. And if they're actually bringing the pressure from a much longer distance, fine, whatever, we'll deal with it. But anyway, we slide in the correct direction this time. We pick up that pressure. The offensive line is holding up. And there we go. We have a touchdown. So to summarize these 5-man protections, you can live in these all day if you really want to. You can live in empty, you can live in scat protection, you can have 5 receivers running routes all the time, do your Joe Burrow thing. I know he loves that style of play. It can absolutely work, but you better be right, you better be good at identifying blitzes, and you better be sliding the right way. If you're not good at identifying blitzes and you want a little bit more margin for error, that's where 6-man protections come in, which in the game is going to be your half slide or your full slide protections most of the time. Now, before we get any further in this video, I do want to take a moment to thank Factor for sponsoring today's show. We are, of course, getting into training camp season now, and production is ramping up like crazy for me. And you're going to be seeing a lot more out of me very soon. And so because I'm in production mode so much, I don't really have time to cook right now. And I'd bet a bunch of you guys also have very busy work schedules that make it tough to cook on weekdays as well. Or maybe you're just grinding an App State Dynasty and you're getting your shit kicked in by Clemson, and so you don't really want to take extra time to cook and you just want to get back to recruiting. I don't know, whatever your excuse is, we could all find a reason to use Factor. All of the meals can be heated up in the microwave in just 2 minutes. They taste great, and there's a ton of variety, so you never get bored. There are over 35 different meal options per week with more than 60 add-on options, including their refresher juices, which I just picked up this month as well. They have a watermelon lime one and a mint lemonade that is really good, super delicious, so highly recommend you guys get those as well. Overall, if you're interested in getting meals that can be made fast, eaten conveniently, and still be tasty, all delivered right to your door, I encourage you to check out Factor. And if you go to factor75.com and use promo code 50FilmRoom, that will get you 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month's box as well for both new and repeat customers. So even if you've tried Factor before and you used my code already, you can still take advantage of this code and get that discount again. Once more, that is promo code 50FilmRoom at factor75.com for that 50% discount and a 20% discount on your second month too. Thank you once again to Factor for sponsoring today's show, and with that, let's get back to it. Let's talk about half slides and full slides now. What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths? Why would you choose one over the other? Or maybe most importantly, what do actual NFL and college teams do when it comes to full slides and half slides? And how can we learn from those teams to apply that better to our own game? We'll start off with full slides here, which technically are portrayed accurately, sorta kinda, in terms of how real football teams use them. Yes, you are going to get a full slide from the offensive line, either left or right, while the running back handles the backside defensive end in protection one-on-one. That is accurately portrayed, but it's also inaccurate in the sense that NFL teams, at least, do not do this. At least from a 6-man pass protection scheme, they don't do full slides in 6-man. Because that is putting your running back one-on-one with a defensive end who might be, anywhere from 250 to 285 pounds. Your running back might be 225. Coaches just don't do that. So it's not something that offensive coaches, either in college or the NFL, rely on a lot. And generally, you're going to see full slide protections with the running back and the tight end on the same side working together. Or at worst, it'll just be a running back that's matched up with either a DB or a linebacker body type against a blitz zero look or something like that. It's a very, very situational pass protection scheme. Most of the time, it's not going to be used, and it's primarily for the body type problem, but also just because schematically, it's pretty easy to beat. It's the same kind of principle we talked about with the scat and empty protections, right? If you're sliding one way and your offensive line is, say, going left, and you have a running back handling an edge in what is essentially man pass blocking on the other side, you just have to send one extra body to that side. No matter how many guys you send on the slide side, you only have to send one more to overload that running back. That is true in real football, and it's also true in CFB 25. I loaded this look up in practice with USC against Notre Dame. It's a full slide left. Running back is handling the defensive end. The right tackle is handling the 3 technique. We got a 2-on-1, and unless you're throwing the ball really quickly, you're done. Like, that's just it. So it's not a very sound pass protection scheme because you can very easily end up with, a 4-on-3 where you don't want a 4-on-3 while you have a 3-on-2 on the other side. It's just not good. NFL teams don't use it. College teams don't use it, at least when it comes to 6-man protections. Again, 7-man is different, but they don't use this. If they're blocking with 6, they're going to be using most often a half slide. And you should be doing the same thing. If you are blocking with 6, use half slides, not full slides. The most common term for this kind of protection is going to be 2 or 3 jet, or 200, 300 jet, depending on if we're under center or in the gun. And it is a very similar principle to scat protection, except instead of the running back running a route, he's just going to be adding on as an extra protector to the man side of the protection. So you've got a slide to one side, man protection on the other side, except instead of 5, now you have 6. Remember when I said it just gives you a bigger margin for error? Well, that's because they have to bring an extra guy to the man side if they want to try to get a free runner. And let's be honest, most DCs don't want to bring that many guys consistently in their pass rush because that's going to open up a lot of space on the back end for quarterbacks and receivers to work. Maybe only a couple times per game are you going to see a 6 or maybe even a 7-man rush. Most of the time, it's going to be 5 or 4. That's why half slides are so good. It gives you margin for error so that even if they're bringing those 4 guys or 5 guys from funky angles, you have the bodies to handle it. Applying that principle to CFB 25, you can immediately see how much more sound this protection looks. We've got a slide to the left so that we can theoretically pick up this nickel or this Mike if either one of them comes. So we're going to have a 3-on-3. At worst, it'll be a 4-on-3, in which case we could just throw hot and we'll deal with it that way. And then on the backside, we've got 1-on-1 with the 2 down linemen, the 3 technique, and the defensive end. And the running back is handling any potential heat from this linebacker. This is the exact same play against the exact same blitz that I ran earlier when it got messed up in full slide. You're going to see how the half slide handles it a lot better. We've got 3-on-3 to the slide. We've got 3-on-3 to the man side. Everything is blocked up, and that allows us to have a comfortable pocket so we can rip this post over the middle and score. It applies the other direction as well, by the way. Again, 2 and 3 jet protection or 200 and 300 jet can go both ways, just depending on if you want to cross protect with the running back or not. In this case, we're cross protecting, but it's the same principle. We've got a slide to the right. It's man on the backside. We'll throw hot off the nickel if he comes, but it's the same result. We've got 3-on-3 to the slide. We've got 3-on-3 to the man side. The angle is a little bit wonky, which you're going to notice when you do cross protection. Like it's just harder to do. So most teams, again, you kind of have to have the right running back if you want to get away with it. They got to be a dog in pass protection. In this case, he holds up. I step slightly to the right just to make myself more comfortable. Again, ripping that post. Could have been complete, but corner just made a hell of a play. Can't really knock him for that. But overall, I really hope those last 2 examples kind of drove the point home that half slides and full slides both have their place, but generally, half slide's going to be better. I want to thank you guys for watching today's show. If you're a CFB 25 player and I have never popped up in your algorithm before, welcome. Hopefully you stick around because this is what we talk about most of the time, just real football and degenerate nerd stuff. But if you're a returning viewer, especially if you're a patron, remember we have a charity survivor pool for the upcoming NFL season that just started up on our Discord server. That is linked in the description below. And if you're a patron, remember there is a patron-only section of the Discord server as well, which I tend to lurk in a lot more often than the rest of the server because I'm cripplingly introverted and there's a lot less people in there. Yeah, I don't know what my next video is going to be, but I know it's going to be in a couple days. So keep an eye out for that. And until then, later.